Item 5 is for discussion and possible action, consideration to approve request for NRC to transfer ordinance 2 fees from Stonehaven Phase 1 to Stonehaven Phase 3. And,
Mr. President, before we get started on
that's
that,
right, I'm sorry.
Because of a conflict of interest, Mike, being my brother who works for, and what's the name of the company? NRC. I'm gonna abstain and.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I knew that.
Not a problem.
Who wants to take this on? Aaron or Bo?
Either one?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Where?
The district currently has some policies and regulations in place that would preclude, the request of transferring ordinance 2 fees from one phase of a subdivision to another. However, from a legal perspective, I don't know that this is a whole lot different from the transfer of impact fees and transfer of water meters that we've addressed in the past. We were able to put together a format and some criteria that if a developer met that criteria, that we would allow, or the district approved, that they could transfer their water meters or impact fees. So from that legal perspective, I think the same issues are in play, and the district could, if it wanted to, approve this. And if it does, we would recommend that the same criteria, the same conditions be satisfied in connection with transferring ordinance 2 fees as if they were transferring impact fees or water meters. So if there's other legal questions, I'm happy to address those, but I think it can be done. One other thing I'll say is that my firm has been involved in the past with this subdivision and preparing CC&Rs, as well as representing, I think, a related entity of the person, the entity that's making this request, NRC, not NRC specifically, but a former entity of some of the same principles. So just want to make sure that that's disclosed as well.
We'd like to tell the applicant we very much don't want to be in the way of progress and et cetera, but there will be some costs associated with this. And I think your firm is going to have to bear those costs to change. We're covered under this on our rules and regulations now, so we don't have to go in and rewrite all of our rules and regulations. But we will have probably some costs involved in maps, and Aaron can probably explain it better than I can. So.
Well, just for the benefit of the public, I think that I think you can summarize pretty quick of what they're asking to do from the subdivision, and they're decreasing lots. Why don't you give
the specific, or Mike, do you even want to give some of that history?
Yes, it's not just moving from phase 1 to phase 3. It's the fact that we've combined lots that both those lots at one time had ordinance 2 fees paid on them. We've combined those 2 lots to the point where now there's one ordinance 2 fee that's floating out there in limbo that has nowhere to go. So we would like to have that credit be moved to another lot in phase 3. Yeah. So.
will you state your name so that we're...
Oh, sorry, Mike Levitt.
You're related to this Levitt?
Yeah.
So that's in a nutshell what's
right.
Specifically being brought up here, and this will affect could affect other subdivisions and have ramifications that later down the line. And so specifically, currently in what Bo reviewed in our, if I'm not mistaken, in the current operation rules, I mean, ordinance 2 can't be transferred, so it would require some change of policy just to allow that. Is that a thought?
Yeah, if the board wants to do it, then again, there's no legal reason that you shouldn't do it. And if it's conducive to further development and you know what contractors and developers are wanting to do, then there's a way to do it that it's going to not be harmful to the district. And so the proper procedure for doing that would be to put in place a policy that will apply to all developers in the future, that if they satisfy the same criteria, then obviously they're gonna be treated the same way. So the first step would be to modify the current operating rules and regulations to be consistent
Okay.
with what we're talking about, and then approve the specific request that's being made.
Okay. So as far as this is concerned tonight, we should either table or bring it back when we've got to vote on it, or do we want to go ahead and vote tonight on it?
The agenda item is specific to this request. If the board is inclined to grant the request, it would require revision to the current operating rules and regulations. So, I mean, it's kind of coming up in the same context. It's
Okay, all right. So can I get a motion on that?
one thing you guys may want to do is, as Aaron mentioned, is if you're going to approve it, there's the issue of if there's going to be a fee associated with it, and if there is a fee for the administrative time that staff is going to put into making the change, and it's not going to be some large fee, but if
Well,
there's
that's
additional,
what I was wondering, yeah.
yeah. So that would probably be part of the motion, but again, the first part would be to revise the current policies to allow for this, and then
Okay.
and then approve the specific request.
Just for clarification for the record, for legal counsel, you have done past work, it's not current work, it's not simultaneous work with the client, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I haven't discussed this issue with NRC.
Just for clarification. If there's no other questions, I'm ready to make a motion.
Hey, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Well, I saw your recommendations and I agree with everything, including a clerical fee. What about, is there any way to make sure that the subdivision's contiguous? So they're not calling phase 2 of the subdivision 10 miles away? You follow my question?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's something for consideration for the board is to how strict we want to be in the future. I mean, I know we don't want to open Pandora's box and turn this into some situation where.
Yeah, I don't want them, selling ordinance 2 fees on the black market, but then again, I also want to work with developers. I think that our understanding is it's in the same subdivision. It's, you're being used by the same developer or, along those lines. But I've also seen where, developers have gone and bought a piece of property 10 miles away and called it, the same subdivision, phase 2, if it was successful or something like that. So that's my only concern.
I think they're tied to a specific map, so that's and again, all of the criteria that we would put in place if the board's inclined to approve this would require an application. In fact, we have an application that was put together in connection with transferring impact fees and water meters that specifically all of this information, these requirements and documents were brought to the district, and the district would approve that. I think under the scenario you're describing, if sometime in the future a developer tried to, I guess, circumvent the standard protocol for ordinance 2 that by having a subdivision split up. Number one, I don't think that a final map would be approved that
Right.
would be structured that way, but if it did, then the district could certainly look at that and decline to approve that application. But I think you raise a good point. Again, we don't want this to get out of control, but if it can be done in a reasonable way so that these developers and builders can move on and and do a good project.
Yeah, in this particular case, I have no problem with it. I was just, like you said, I don't want to open Pandora's box.